The Lost Room. I was 10 years old when we moved into the big house. It wasn't old, not like 100 years old, but it was built in a strange way. It had many corners, long hallways, and doors that seemed to lead nowhere. My mom and dad said it had character. I thought it had too many secrets. My room was at the back of the second floor. It was a good room with a window that looked over the garden. But right across the hall from my room was the oddest thing. A wall, just a wall. It was too long for a closet, and it didn't have a door. The house was supposed to have 3 bedrooms on the second floor, plus the master bedroom. My room was 1, my little sister's was 2, and my parents' was 3. Where was the 4th? I asked my dad about it. He looked up from his newspaper, a little confused. The blueprint says 3 bedrooms, son, plus the office downstairs. This house is a standard 4-bedroom model. I pointed across the hall, but that wall is so long, it looks like it hides a whole room. Dad walked over, knocked on the plaster, and shrugged. Just a badly built hallway, I guess. Nothing back there but insulation and pipes. Don't worry about it. But I did worry about it. The wall looked wrong. It didn't match the other walls. The wallpaper was a slightly different shade of yellow, and when you put your ear to it, the air felt dead. No sound passed through. No furnace hum, no pipe clang, nothing. It felt like the air itself stopped at that wall. The first strange thing happened to my sister, Clara, who was 6. She started leaving small toys outside the wall. A little plastic horse, a shiny marble, a doll's shoe. She would leave them right in the middle of the hall, facing the blank wall. When my mom asked why, Clara just looked at the wall and whispered, "They are for the other girl." She asked me to. My mom got angry at me, thinking I was teaching Clara silly stories, but I hadn't said anything. When I asked Clara who the other girl was, she said, "The one who cries behind the wall. She can't find her way out." After that, the crying started. It was very faint. I only heard it at night, when everything was still. It was a high, thin sound, like a mouse crying, but it sounded like a little girl. It was trapped, muffled by the thick plaster and wood it always came from behind that blank wall. I tried knocking. I hit the wall with my fist. The sound was flat and heavy, like hitting concrete. When I stopped, the crying stopped too. Then a few minutes later, it would start again. Softer this time, almost pleading. The next thing was the smell. It was a strange, sweet, old smell, like old powder and dust, but also something damp and heavy, like wet paper. It wasn't a bad smell, but it was sad. It only came out near the wall. Sometimes when the house was quiet, I would walk down the hall, and the smell would hit me, strong and cold, right in the center of the hall. One evening I found something. I was tracing the base of the wall, where it met the carpet. The carpet was old and thick. I felt a tiny, rough spot. I pushed my finger into the nap and felt a break in the plaster. It was just a small, rough hole, barely the size of my pinky nail. I got a screwdriver from the garage and scraped at the hole until it was big enough to look through. My hands were shaking. I held the light of my small flashlight to the hole and looked inside. The beam cut through a thick, still layer of dust. The space inside was small and dark, like an unused attic space, but the floor was covered in dust so deep it looked like snow. There were no pipes, no insulation. It was just a room, a small, forgotten room. And in the very middle of that room, against the far wall, I saw something pale. It was a small rocking chair. It was empty, but sitting right next to the rocking chair was a small porcelain doll. It had a white dress and black painted eyes. It was sitting perfectly upright, facing the wall where I was looking. I felt sick. I knew that doll hadn't been there when the house was built. Someone had put it there, or something. I pulled away fast, heart racing, and covered the hole with a piece of tape. I went to bed, but the crying was louder that night. It wasn't just crying anymore. It sounded like someone dragging their feet across a dusty floor. Shh, shh, drag, drag. It sounded like the rocking chair was moving. I couldn't sleep. I got up and walked down the hall again. The smell was overpowering now, like a thick cloud of old flowers. I stood in front of the wall. I put my hand on the tape, covering the hole. And then I heard a whisper, clear as a bell, right on the other side of the wall. It said, "I like the little horse. Thank you." It was a child's voice, soft and dry. I ran back to my room and pulled the blanket over my head. The next day, all of Clara's toys were gone from the hallway. I checked the wall. The little hole I had made was no longer taped. The tape was gone, and the hole was completely filled in. The plaster was new and smooth, a slightly brighter white than the old yellow wallpaper. I told my dad the wall was changed. He checked it. He said, "I don't see anything, son. You're imagining things." But the wallpaper was still the same old yellow. Only the tiny circle where the hole had been was now a bright, clean white. My dad didn't see it. He couldn't see it. The strange thing is, the crying stopped after that. The sweet, sad smell went away. We had peace for a few weeks. But then, the noises moved again. They moved into the space under my bed. I started waking up with the covers pulled down to my waist. I always slept with the blanket pulled up to my chin. Every morning, the blanket was pushed down, neatly folded over my feet. One morning, when I sat up, I saw something under my bed. It was the little plastic horse that Clara had left for the other girl. It was sitting on the carpet, clean and shiny, looking out at me. I threw it across the room and started screaming. My parents rushed in. I pointed at the horse. I told them about the wall, the hole, the crying, and the rocking chair. My dad finally took me seriously when he saw how scared I was. He went to the hall and knocked on the wall across from my room. He heard the same flat, dull sound I always heard. He borrowed a hammer and hit the wall hard. The hammer went right through the plaster. Not with a crash, but with a soft, tearing sound, like wet fabric. Behind the wall was not a room. It was a narrow, dark space, less than 2 feet wide. It was lined with rough, unpainted plywood. It was too small to be a room, but too big to be just insulation. It was a crawl space, running the whole length of the hall. And right in the middle, sitting in a pile of sawdust, was a small, dusty rocking chair. No doll, no horse. My dad said the house must have been badly remodeled, and that the builders left the chair there. He closed the hole with fresh drywall that afternoon. He never spoke about it again. We moved out 2 years later. I never went back to that house. But sometimes when I'm falling asleep, I feel a cold, light weight on my feet. And I remember the blanket being neatly folded. And I remember the small, dry voice right next to my ear, whispering, "Thank you for the toys." I know the girl wasn't trapped behind the wall. She was trapped in the space. And once the wall was broken, she was finally able to find the way out. And now, she's closer than she ever was.